Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we are going to be talking about Power BI Pro Online and just some general information about Power BI Pro Online. It does require a Power BI Pro license. Microsoft does offer 60-day free trials, so you can test out how it works. And you can access it through a web browser. It's just powerbi.com. And you use your Office 365 or Microsoft login to get into the system. Some specific things about online Power BI and why people choose to use that is dashboards are only available in Power BI, so you can create reports within the desktop. Dashboards can create tiles from multiple reports, and we'll take a look at a dashboard here in a little bit. A big thing is the sharing of reports. So if you want to create a report in Power BI and then you want to share it with others within your organization, you do need that online Power BI access. Another big point of using online is the automatic refreshes that you can do. So you're looking at the most up-to-date data on your reports. And another neat feature is subscriptions. Sometimes people still want that email, so you can set up subscriptions to the different reports you've created for Power BI to take a snapshot at a certain time and email it out. And that can be to just yourself or to multiple people. So let's really get into Power BI Online because that's where we're going to learn the most, and we'll take a look at some navigation and then some of these features that we just touched on here. So I am in Power BI Online right here, and this is just the home screen. The first thing we're going to talk about is you can see on the black toolbar here, new look is currently off. I'm going to turn it on because we are going to do the navigation within the new look. Eventually, it will just be the new look, but right now they still are allowing you to turn that off and on. And if you do have the new look on and you turn it off, they do give you an option to submit feedback so that they could work on updates to Power BI. So let's go ahead and turn the new look on. It's very similar from a functionality. Some of the buttons have slightly moved, but it's not terribly different. So we're going to work along this top black toolbar first. There's a search box right here, so you can start typing in, if you want to look for a particular report, you can just start typing in, it'll pull up whether it's a report or an app, just a quick little search box. This bell is for notifications. So you do have the ability to set up alerts and different things within your reports. And if there are new notifications, there would be a little circle here similar to any type of social media when you have those notifications of new things going on with your reports. The settings box we're going to look into a little bit here, and I'm not going to cover absolutely everything. I'm pulling out the major things that you guys might want to see. And within this, we're going to look at manage gateways. So if you are doing automatic refreshes on your data, you are required to have a gateway installed on the computer that's going to be doing the refreshes, whether you're doing it on your own personal laptop or machine, or if you designate like a server or computer within your company's network, the gateway does need to be installed on whichever computer is going to be doing the refresh. And there's two different types. There's a personal and then there's an organizational level gateway. And if you click manage gateways, I have one example gateway just right here on my computer, but this is where you can take a look at your different data sources. So you can see I've got a workbook, I've actually got 2 Excel workbooks, and then I have a SQL database that I connect to throughout my reports. And this is where when you're managing your gateway, you could add new sources. If you want to connect all of a sudden to maybe an old data link or something like that, you can add new sources underneath your gateways. The other important feature here is just going to overall settings. And we have a few tabs here. And the ones we're going to talk about, we're going to look at alerts So I don't have any alerts set up, and alerts do have some specifics, rules around them. A lot of times you either have to have like Power BI Premium, and then there's certain other tiles within the Pro version. It only works on like numerical data that's refreshing. There's quite a few rules around alerts, which we can look at a later time. But this is where you would set them up if you have tiles and the capacity to set up alerts on the reports that you have. Subscriptions, I have one subscription currently for my sales report, but you can add subscriptions. You can choose, so I'm going to take a look at this subscribe that I have here. You choose which pages, if you have multiple pages within your report. When you look at it, you also can choose, do you want it daily? Do you want it only certain days of the week? You can have a scheduled time, how long you want it to go for. You can set up all of the information regarding the alert. And when you have an alert set up, what Power BI does, and I'll pull up my alert here. Oops, sorry about that. Right here. This is what the subscription looks like. It gives you a snapshot of the report in the body of your email. So you can see this is just taken a snapshot at that particular time. So this is what my report looked like at 3:18 p.m. because I have two set up, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. It pulls it in a picture document, and it also includes a link to go to the report. That can be helpful for you guys. You can have multiple subscriptions. I have one that shows me the face of my sales report, and I have one that shows the second tab within my sales report. That can be kind of neat. If we look at data sets, here's the other one we're going to look at within settings. Here's where you also can look at some gateway information. So you can see here on the left, these are my different data sets that I have. So I'm going to look at my sales report because that's the report we're going to spend most of the time reviewing. If I expand this, this is where you can see the gateways I have. And I'm using my example gateway. You can see the data source here. So you wouldn't necessarily have to go into manage gateways. You also could do your gateway management within this section. But the important thing to remember when you do it here, you are setting it for each individual report. When you add a data source overall, it's available for all your reports. The other thing within data sets, so the gateway connection, I've got my gateway selected. I've got my data source credentials, so this is how I access that gateway. And then with the scheduled refresh, so if I wanted to schedule a refresh here for this report, I'm going to flip this on. And you can choose your refresh frequency, daily or weekly. You choose your time zone, and then we go ahead to add another time. So I'm going to say I want this to refresh at 3 p.m. And you can add multiple times. You could have multiple times a day. I haven't seen too many people do multiple times a day. It's usually once a day, but you can do multiple times a day. And then you can send a failure notification to the dataset owner if a refresh fails, or you can enter another email if you want it to go to someone else. So even if you're the dataset owner, but you want someone else to be keeping track of if it's working or not, you could designate a different email address. I'm going to go ahead and apply. And now I've scheduled my refresh. And we'll take a look at how you can see if you have a scheduled refresh in a little bit when we get to the individual report. The other thing that you can do within a report itself is you can do featured Q&A questions. So Power BI allows you to ask questions about your data. That's a huge draw to it. You know, you can show me my top sales, by month, or you can enter different questions about your data. A cool thing you can do for your end users is you can add featured Q&A questions, like questions to get them started if there would be common questions that someone might want to know about your data. The restrictions around that are that only appears, the featured questions will only appear on more like devices. So like for iPhone or iPad, if you're doing the Power BI app on those. It also works just within the Power BI desktop. You can only create featured questions in this online version, but it's the one version that the featured questions won't appear on if you're trying to ask questions of your data. Kind of a funny little quirk about Power BI, but that's what it is. So those are some of the different things that you can handle within that settings portion. So we're going to move along on the top toolbar here. In the download option, most people, if you do have the online version, you probably already have Power BI Desktop installed, but you can download the Power BI Desktop from here. You can also, if you do not have a gateway, this is where you can select to download a data gateway. There is also a newer thing that Power BI has, the report builder for building paginated reports. And that's a separate thing that you do need to download to be able to use. Power BI for mobile, and then Analyze and Excel updates. So these are where you would get some of those different downloads if you need to have other Power BI features. The little question mark up here, this is just your little help box, and there's lots of different places that you can connect to if you have questions around using Power BI, the Power BI community. It's very helpful. Lots of people out there doing lots of really cool things with Power BI. And then just further off here, you can also sign out. It's your little login, and you can choose to sign out there. So that's the top toolbar. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go down this side navigation here. And if you click here, it expands it so you can see what it is. We can just click on home, takes you to your home page, shows you your frequents and your recent things that you have accessed. You can also just go directly to them. So you can star different reports and dashboards, and then it would appear here in your favorites. Recent, those are just records, reports, dashboards you've recently accessed. The apps section here is kind of a neat feature for Power BI as well. You can see I have a couple different apps that I've downloaded. So within Microsoft App Source, there are basically already created reports for you that connect to certain types of data sources. So if we look at the apps from the app source, there's things that will connect to, the ones I had connect to Dynamics CRM. There's things that connect to, MailChimp or other things. I haven't seen anything that really connects just to GP. What these are, they're just reports that are already created with visuals and everything to get you started if you wanted to look at that. A lot of people like customized reports or things built directly from their data, so I haven't seen a ton of them used. But if you're getting started with Power BI and you just want to connect to a data source and see some of the things that are possible, you could check out an app. You also have the ability to publish your own apps for others in your organization. So this next portion here is shared with me. This is where if you have reports that someone else has created, they've shared with you, they would appear here instead of in your My Workspace. Since I'm responsible for creating the Power BI reports here, I don't have any that are shared with me, but everyone that I've shared reports with, that's where the reports I've created and shared with them appear. And then down here is where you can start to see more reports. Workspaces, we have one for just like all our employees of our company here, but you can create workspaces and Power BI will automatically pick up a lot of workspaces for teams that you've created if you create things in Microsoft Teams. So say you had like a full sales team, and instead of creating one sales report and sharing it with 10 people, you have a team created and you have a workspace for them. You could publish that sales report to the workspace, and everyone that is in that team can access that workspace. So it's just a little less if you have a lot of teams than having to share a report with multiple people. Most of the time, if you're creating reports and publishing them, they're going to be in your My Workspace. And if you just click on My Workspace, you'll see we have access to our dashboard, reports, workbooks, and data sets. If you expand the arrow, they'll appear here on the left-hand side. So let's go ahead. We're going to click on reports. Now, they all have different actions in here, and a lot of them are the same. So if we look like at dashboards, there's a few here, but we're going to look at them just because there's more options here in the reports. They have the same functionality, whether it's with a dashboard or a report. So this first one, view usage metrics. If you create a report for your team and you want to know, are they even looking at it? Are they using it? If you click on your usage metrics, it's going to pull up your views per day, unique views, how many people are looking at it, views by user. I'm the only one using this view, but it does give you that ability to see, hey, is anyone even looking at what I'm creating? And similar with a lot of other Microsoft products, up here it will always have the location. So you're within, your usage metrics. This is where the report name would normally appear. It's just shortened for space. And if you go back to my workspace, it would take you back here where you could look at a different report or take different actions. So the next option here, this is how you can share a report, which is usually a common thing people want to do. So if you click share, you can enter your sharing information over here on the right-hand side. So you can enter an email address, you can grant access to multiple people within one, but this is where if you have, 10 people, you can enter 10 email addresses, or having a workspace may be more beneficial. Some of the choices you have is you can allow them to share your report. You could have them be able to make more reports with the same data set, and send an email notification. And that sends a really nice notification to the people you shared the report with, along with a link to get right to the Power BI report. If you share it with multiple people, I'm the only one that has access here, so let me go ahead and I'll share it with Brandon. And I won't bother him with an email here, but I'll go ahead and share it. If at any point in time you no longer want to share, someone leaves the company or whatever it is, or you want to say, oh wait, I didn't mean to let them reshare it, I only want them to read it, you can change their access, or you can completely remove their access. And it gives you, examples if there's things that are related to it. It'll give you the option to do multiple things that you remove access from. So that's sharing. One of the other things we're going to look at is we're going to look at this view related. Within this, if you click on view related, I only have one data set feature that feeds into this report, which also is then some of the report is on the dashboards. It'll show you what's all related to the particular report you're looking at. Within settings, this is an important thing if you are ever going to let people export to Excel. This is just some generic settings for your reports. And, there's some things in here like do not allow them to save filters on the report, hide the visual, but the important thing is this export data. It will always default to summarized. And if people are going to be exporting to Excel and they're going to want the data feeding it along with the information they're looking at, you do want to change this to summarized data and underlying data. And then you also have the ability to delete any of your reports within here, or you can save as a copy. So if you want to start from a report, save a copy of it, then make some tweaks or edits to that and save it with the new additions, you can do that within a report. The other thing we're going to look at here is a couple of options within the data sets. So the automatic refresh, even though it's like, I want my sales report to refresh, you're actually refreshing the data sets that live underneath that report that are feeding that report. So when we look at data sets here, and we're going to look at the sales report again, a couple of things that you'll notice is we can see the last time it was refreshed, which I'm obviously not very good at refreshing my data here, but I've scheduled the next refresh. We did that when we went through that data set scheduled refresh earlier. You can see that it is scheduled to refresh today at 3 p.m. So you'll always be able to see the last time it was refreshed, and if you have a scheduled refresh, when the next refresh is scheduled to happen. If you have an error with your refresh, there will be a little triangle here, or pretty sure it's triangle, not a circle, that appears, and you can click on it and it will tell you what the error was, whether maybe it was a timeout because your report feeds in a lot of GP data and it timed out, or if a new connection happened, maybe your credentials were no longer valid because you switched SQL servers and we don't have the new SQL server name. So it'll kind of give you some information on what the error was, why the refresh didn't happen. Within a data set here, the options, you can create a new report. So maybe you like the sales report, you want to use that same data, but you want to create different visuals. You can start creating a new report from a data set. If the refresh didn't work or you're not doing scheduled refreshes, you can refresh now by selecting this, and let's do it. I'll just do that here on my HR report example because that one takes less time to refresh. The little page here, this is where you can schedule the refreshes. So we will pull that up. Okay, now you can see the refresh finished here on the HR report. Now we have the new time it was last refreshed. If we pull up schedule refresh, it looks just the same as we accessed before. So there's multiple ways to access things. Let's go back. And again, there's view related. And then within your data sets, a couple things that you can do within here. You can analyze in Excel. You can rename your data set. What I want to call out here is that you can also download the PBIX file. So that is the file that you create within the Power BI desktop, but you also can create files directly within Power BI Online. You can create reports, you can connect to data, but if you want to take it and maybe do some more transformation that you can't do in the online version, you can download that PBIX file and work with it directly within the Power BI desktop. Okay, so the last thing I want to look at are some options and navigation directly within a report. So we're going to pull up the sales report we looked at previously. And this is where things look a little different in the newer version. In the old version, it appeared more like an Excel document where you would see the tabs here on the bottom. But here they list the pages on the left-hand side. So we can switch between the two pages that I have on this report here on the left-hand side. And if you don't want to see the pages, maybe you only have one, maybe it's just one report, you can close that out so you can see it a little larger on the screen. You can export to PowerPoint, PDF, and print, and it just pulls it straight out. So let's go ahead and do PowerPoint with our current values. And it might take a couple minutes, so we'll look at the other options here. Here's another way that you can share. You're directly within this one report. If you click share here, it will pull up that same box to the right that we looked at before. You also can subscribe to a report directly within here. So if you hit subscribe, it pulls up that subscribe box for you, and you could add a new subscription. You can turn on comments for reports. So if you turn on comments, it's just like with a social media app, people can start commenting on the different reports, and you can have whole conversations in the comments if you want. And here's another place where you can mark as a favorite. So if I mark this as a favorite, when I look here at my little favorites box, now you can see sales report is a favorite as well. And here we go, it did download. So let's open up PowerPoint, and it just takes the different pages and plops them into slides for PowerPoint. So just one of the ways you can export out. Some of the other options that they have in here on the report itself, if you want to edit the report, make changes to the visuals, add visuals, if you select edit, it will open that up for you. You can see now we have the fields over here for visuals, and to add the different fields within that. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're gonna go back. Okay, and a couple other things within this, I know we looked at it before. You also can view usage metrics, download the PBIX file, or manually refresh the data sets behind the report from the report face as well here. On the right-hand side here, we have reset to default. So if you have a lot of, we only have one real slicer in here, but maybe you have a lot of different filters that people can select through, and you can hit reset to default, and that will bring it back and clear all those filters for you. If you're using bookmarks, this is where you can add a bookmark or show more bookmarks. If we show bookmarks, I had set up bookmarks previously for our different countries, so this is how you can also access and view the different bookmarks that may have been set up. Another thing you can do from in here with the view, we've been looking at this all within a browser, but you can go ahead and you could view it full screen. So if you were displaying this or presenting to people, you may want to look at it full screen just so you can see it larger. When you have it on full screen, the bookmarks do appear here on the bottom. You can go through the bookmarks. And we can go ahead and out of that. I'm going to minimize that again, so we're back to our normal view. So I know this was a really quick navigation of the Power BI Online. I know it looks a little different than the desktop version. The one thing that I didn't touch on too much, but over here on the left-hand side, if you select this arrow, that is your Get Data arrow. So if you have not previously connected to data, you do not have reports already created, you can create new reports and get through new data sets directly from here. You can go to Files or Databases to create new content. Are there any questions on anything that we've covered? Perfect. Well, I thank you all for spending some time with me today, and I hope you're enjoying looking at Power BI and getting in there and starting to experiment. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I am happy to answer any questions you might have. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.